gatherings with friends and with family with a bottle of 1 or 2 just in front of you.
What is 1 or 2?
Maybe juice.
After the health tip we struggle to talk about here, you are telling them to take a bottle of 1 or 2.
1 or 2 juice now, water, milk, a bottle of milk, a bottle of milk. Why are you dragging my jugular? Why are you dragging my jugular?
You need to stay healthy.
Yes, please.
And in fact, this season is the wrongest time for you to be drinking alcohol because
don't drink alcohol.
You need to be hydrated as much as possible. It's the Harmattan season, and during the Harmattan period, the weather is dry, unusually dry.
Yes,
and alcohol dries your system even more. Do not take 1 or 2. Discard the advice that Victor has given to you right now.
Okay,
discard it. Drink water. Drink juice. You have watermelon. Watermelon has a lot of water. It is sweet. Watermelon juice, orange juice, a lot of that, so that your system stays healthy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Extract the juice and put it in a bottle and drink. Does that make sense now? But of course, good to have you back on the Big Conversation. My name is Victor. Okay.
And my name is Martha Alu. I'm here to remind you every step of the way that you need to stay healthy. And I'm serious about it.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
Because if you look at the statistics of people that come down with a lot of illnesses these days, sometimes they don't even know where it comes from. And it's majorly because of lifestyle changes, because a lot of healthcare practitioners have said it. Lifestyle change is very important. You know, from the early 19s to the early 20s and right now, there's a very big shift in what we consume, how we live, and what we eat, and these things contribute to the deteriorating state of the human health. You can imagine that life expectancy for Nigeria is 50 years old. That's very, very poor. Very poor. Other countries are experiencing 90s and 100s, while we here are experiencing 50s, when we have all that it takes to stay healthy. Please prioritize your health at least once in a year. If you're not going to do a full body checkup, at least once in a year you should do it. This is the time. The year is coming to an end. It's important for you to also, while you are getting your Spotify wrap, your YouTube wrap, your every wrap, it's important for you to wrap up your health by going to the hospital to check how healthy you are and what lifestyle changes you should include in your 2026 plan. It's important that you know this. But we are not talking health right now.
No, we're not. You know. Anyways, this week is referred to as the Senior Citizens Week, and of course, say again.
Well, the Senior Citizens Week is long before now. No, it's not now.
Not right now.
But we are just in commemoration of that day, and it's important because of some of the things that we have seen and some of the experiences some of those old people have had. So I feel like it's important that we have these conversations here.
Awesome. Oh, thanks for that correction. Of course, you get to know that our elders are the foundation of our families and, of course, our communities. They help guide us, they teach us, and they share their wisdom from years of experience. I could still remember some of the stories that my grandmother told me, and these are stories that sometimes when you think about them, you just smile. You get to know that well, these are historical facts, these are historical stories, you know, from the family history and, of course, the communities where we find ourselves. And getting to be with some of the senior citizens in our society helps to shape your mind in the right direction. And so yes, you know, whenever we get to talk about them, we get to be reminded that we need to learn to honor and appreciate the senior citizens in our society, in our homes, and of course in our family for all that they do. So as much as possible, learn to celebrate, you know, the senior citizens around you, and as much as possible, always learn to make sure that you are always there to give them one love or the other. Now in Nigeria, we get to find out that older adults make up a growing part of the population, and today millions of Nigerians are aged 60 and above, with projections showing that the number of older persons should rise significantly in the coming years. Well, we see that just around the world, societies are growing older. As of 2025, we have over 1.4 billion people that are aged 60 or above, and that number is expected to reach about 2.1 billion by 2050 as the life expectancy increases and populations age globally as well. So in Nigeria, we of course see that older adults make up a growing part of the population. Millions of Nigerians are aged 60 and older, with projections showing that the number of older persons could rise significantly in the coming decades. Despite their increasing numbers, many face real challenges, and this is where the challenge is. Only about 4% of older Nigerians have formal pension coverage, leaving most without a steady source of income in old age, and a large portion live with limited access to healthcare and social support. And so senior citizens, having senior citizens around you is important. That we also have a call to action to improve policies, strengthen support systems, and build communities where older adults can actually live with dignity, health, and respect. Now, sometime the beginning of this year, I think I saw an old man. He was in one of these building sites, and he was carrying what those guys refer to as mortar. That is a mixture of sand and cement in the headpan, and he was trying to do that so that he can earn a living for himself. And when I saw that man there, I just looked at how frail this man looks, but yet he is trying to find a means to survive at old age. Now imagine when you have systems that are very functional, that could actually help take care of some of the senior citizens in our nation, Nigeria. We can be able to take care of them. We can be able to support them in one way or the other. But whilst we are looking out for those policies to come, it's important that even as individuals, members of societies and families, we always need to ensure that there are certain things that you're doing within your own sphere to ensure that senior citizens around you can actually be fended for, or they can as well be taken care of. Not just in your money, but of course also in your love and your presence in their lives. Martha.
Yes, senior citizens in Nigeria, I think that their care and their well-being should be prioritized in this part of the world. But you'd see that elderly care in Nigeria traditionally relies on the family, rooted in cultural values, and the system. The system, our system in general, faces a strain, and it comes from economic hardship, basically changing family structures and what have you. So there's a growing concern about the generic care of older people or senior citizens here in Nigeria, and we see that there's a gap in services like dementia care, accessibility in this part of the world. And I think one time also we were sampling opinions of people, and one simple question we were asking on the streets: would you take your elderly mom or dad, your elderly aunt, to an old people's home? And the kind of resistance that came with was quite alarming. You'd see a lot of people talk about how that's something they'd never do, and that's why I say that elderly care in Nigeria traditionally relies on your family values and what you'd like to uphold at the time. And most people were saying, oh, I would never take my family or my elderly parent or my senior citizen that resides in my home. I'm not going to take them out of the home. They are going to be here with me, and that affects significantly your productivity level.
It does.
We don't agree. You see, in this part of the world, people feel guilty sometimes for outsourcing things, and outsourcing things doesn't necessarily mean that you're irresponsible or you don't care about your family. And I think that this has to do with a lot of mental or environmental conditioning. I think a lot of people need to rework how they think and rework some of the values that we're being told is the highest form. It's important to honor your father and your mother, at least that's what scripture says, right? But it's important to also know that you have to create a healthy balance between caring for your elderly parent and caring for yourself as well. It can be draining mentally, physically, and economically draining to care for an elderly person or a senior citizen that resides in your home. So having more care in Nigeria, we have little to no old people's homes, little to no, we don't factor the elderly citizens in the overall structure of things. And so that's why you see, as in other parts of the world, as important as it is to have hospitals, that's how important it is to have old people's homes where they can be given proper care. I see a lot of organizations, growing up here in Nigeria. Recently, I came across an organization, it's called Tend Africa, where people that have family in diaspora or they leave diaspora, Nigerians in diaspora, and have elderly parents here. This organization caters to the needs, particularly the health needs of such people here. So I think that if we must be able to factor these old people or these elderly citizens or senior senior citizens into our country system, then we must build a structure that accommodates them, and that is very particular about their care. We are talking about their health care, we're talking about their finances, because we know some of them retired and do not have any proper economic structure put in place that they can fall back to, you know, after retirement. So we need to be able to help them plan towards having a good transition from their working years to their retirement years.
Very true. I agree with you. And so some of the challenges I've also seen happen is the fact that once these guys retire, their pensions and gratuities, it becomes a problem for them to receive it.
Access it.
Yeah. And then we've seen many times these senior citizens get them, you know, out there and they begin to protest for what is due them. And so whilst we have these responsibilities, you know, the government actually needs to ensure that these people, they're really, proper attention is paid to them. Because you mentioned the fact of the economic factor. Many times these guys have nothing to fall back on, and sometimes their last resort, especially those that worked in civil service, their last resort is the pension that comes in, the gratuities that we have. Once we have this bulk money come in place, then maybe they might want to set up something that could as well bring in resources for them, or settle their children, or just set up something in their family that could help them do that. But the inability for them to get it as at when due becomes a problem. Some of them actually transition without receiving this money, and then the children begin to still fight for the gratuities that is due to their parents and all of that. And these are things that I think that the government should really pay attention to ensure that, you know, these guys do not struggle so much whilst they have given their years in service to the nation where they of course where they've resided. Yeah, talking about the pension situation in our country, Nigeria, as it affects the senior citizens of our nation, Nigeria. And there are various other reports that also talks about this whole situation. And it's such a big time challenge to see that those that have dedicated their lives to the workings of the society, you know, they are being owed their pensions, something now that they depend upon to survive for the rest of their life, and they don't get to get this, you know, monies being paid to their account on a regular basis. It's something that breaks the heart of many people. And we saw that you know, about 4 to 5% of older adults have access to formal pension schemes, you know, in the country, Nigeria. Though there are also recent reports saying that 2025 report now, which says that pension coverage and growth, the CPC, which is the Nigerian Contributory Pension Scheme, now covers over 10 million Nigerians, you know, including public and private workers, and even some self-employed under the micro pension plan. But of course, not still many persons have access to all of these, or even have the knowledge to get into it as it is. But challenges, you know, that persist regarding the pension scheme in Nigeria. Yes.
That's what I was going to say. Regardless of the number of people that are covered by the pension scheme, how many of them have access to that? First of all, would give like a very big credit to BBC for that comprehensive report, because that was that is footage from the documentary that they were. It was an extensive documentary that they did, and good thing is they got to speak one-on-one with the people whose names were taken off the list. How do you call someone a ghost pensioner when the person is still alive? And you see, the ghosting system, it used to exist a lot in local government, where people were employed in the local government as local government staff members, but they are in the cities running their lives and doing stuff. But at the end of the month, they are being paid. They're being paid salaries. They're being paid salaries for as local government workers. Meanwhile, they are in the big cities and people within the local government that have the need for these jobs and do not have the opportunity. How much do they even pay them in the first place? 30,000 naira. As at 2020 or 2018 to 2020, I was aware that in my own local government it was about 30,000 naira that they were being paid, 30 to 35,000 naira, and then one person receiving multiple times, because some are ghost workers, some are including the name of their family members that have no need for it and collect percentages later. You see, this issue of corruption is deeply ingrained in our systems, and there are certain policies that must be changed, because some of the policies we now have make it easy for people to steal from our resources. And you know, it's just like when a thief wants to come into your house, when it is locked,
They have to break
They
it.
have no access. They have to break it, and they will break it only when the nature of the door that is being set is frail or is fragile or what have you. But when you, as a person that is aware that there are thieves within your vicinity and you leave your door open, it is you collaborating with the thieves to steal from you. It's the same thing with these policies. There should be policies that makes it easy for people to be spotted when they are found doing anything of this sort. You see, this man was apprehended now, and you know, getting properties, which is the same thing we're still talking about, the same thing we spoke about Farouk today.
Yeah.
You see, you are buying and acquiring properties that are way above your pay grade, way above your pay grade. And at the time when this documentary was shot, minimum wage was still 18,000 naira. Com members were receiving way less than that. You see, and you are acquiring a house of $2 million at that time.
I mean, how?
How?
Because if you also listen to the person who was having the conversation with the BBC reporter, he made mention of the fact that as at the time, his own salary, I mean the man's salary, male salary, there was no way that his salary, his payment, everything would have amounted to him owning a house worth $2 million. And that is not the only house that he had.
Multiple houses.
There were many homes that the man owned at that point in time. You see, there have been allegations about the fact that some civil servants, or even many civil servants, actually are some part of the problem that we face in this nation. Because, I mean, you need to be in the civil service to do some of these EOs. And I wonder most times, those that are involved in this, you're civil servants. The persons that are also suffering these things were civil servants. These are people that have also dedicated their lives in service.
So you should know.
You should understand the pain. You know, you should be able to support and get to know that, well, these people need their resources to live the life as much as they can do. Some of them were sick. I mean, if you watch that documentary again, you see that they have to travel from one city to the other, and sometimes they spend 4 hours on the road, 7 hours on the road, and they stay in those cities for about 2 weeks. Now, they have no money to rent a hotel. They have no money to actually pay for even proper feeding for the 2 weeks they are off home. And these guys are old, these guys are ill, but they have to be there just to ensure that they are out there fighting for their pension, and it's a big time challenge.
Do you know, I have also never made peace with the system, civil service system in general, because a person who has worked for a long period of time, they don't count this money in bulk to give them. But when they die, they pay to their families as gratuity. Make it make sense to me.
Why?
Because the person who worked would never have the opportunity to have that money in bulk. Only when they die, the money in bulk is given to their family. How?
For burial.
And do you know, the truth is, if you see from that documentary, that's another whole part of corruption. And I can speak about that authoritatively because I've experienced it myself. Where you have a family member who passed on, and you know they have benefits that are supposed to be paid them from their job. You would see this person will tell you, give me 50,000 naira to process it, give me 100,000 to process it. When the money comes, you are going to give me this percentage of money, and before you know it, the money has disappeared to thin air because it means little to nothing. In fact, my family had abandoned that race a very long time ago because you are trying to get something done. Everyone is collecting for money that has not yet arrived. The money hasn't even come yet, but you guys are already collecting percentages. The person is giving out from what they don't have. It doesn't make any sense.
Not at all.
The corruption does not only exist in the pension scheme, it exists in the people who give out the gratuities. It exists in the system of the people that are even alive safe. Some of them months before they get their salaries and all of that. If we should fix Nigeria, we should start with these areas where we should not be scared of going to demand what is due us, because it's unexpected most times. You go to the bank, there's uncertainty in the bank. You go to collect gratuity, uncertainty there. You go to NEPA office, everywhere you are faced with uncertainties. A system cannot work like that.
Not at all.
The reason these developed systems work is because they have an open door policy, and by open door policies I mean you can see for yourself the progress of some of these things.
Of course.
It's not hard.
No, it's not rocket science.
It's not.
I used to think basically then that the challenge we have in our nation is a system problem. But yes, now I get to also realize that yes, while we have the system problem, we also have the people problem.
Absolutely so.
Because the system is there. The system functions the way the people
want it to function.
So if the people do not function properly in those particular systems, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Just like the banking sector, banking sector, the medical sector, the political sector, there are individuals who actually operate in those sectors. It is the quality of the integrity of these people in these various sectors that reflects on this particular sector. And that's why we have a big time problem, right? Our people are not ready to actually work in these systems effectively, and so they come with their own mindset. You know that popular aphorism, the popular quote, wants to get into power, let us all share the national cake. It will shock you to know that there are persons that are still, even the Gen Zs, still think that way. That when they get into office, they will all go to share the national cake. And these are mentalities that have been there
for a very long time.
And so just imagine that kind of a situation. I mean, where do we get it right? How do we get it right in our country, Nigeria, to ensure that people actually get what is due them, and they don't have to stress and struggle for them.
Get it.
In the documentary, she said something that actually stuck with me. She said, even if you do not have advanced technology, it should not take you years before you can determine who is alive or who is not alive, to pay them their pension and ensure that these senior citizens are properly taken care of.
And do you see why data is not such a big deal here? Because that's the easiest way to cover crime.
Of course.
Lack of data. If these people, if we have a statistics of the senior citizens in Nigeria, alive and dead, we would know for a fact who is alive and who is dead. Because there should be a system that checks them in. There should be a system.
Of course.
But because we don't want it to work, we don't put these things in place. Thankfully, we have a Minister of Innovation and what's his name, Bosun Tijani, and this other person. Can't remember his name now. But these people are actively working hard to ensure that Nigeria evolves when it comes to technology. We have seen that the MDAs also, they're trying to integrate technology in their system. FIRS recently talking about a partnership with France, even though that is under review and is being questioned. But at least that's a step in the right direction. Now you know that data is your problem. How can we fix the problem of data? Have accurate data. Conduct census. Conduct a census so that you know the number of people that are within your country. That's the only way. How do you draw up your budget if you don't know the number of people that are in your country? How do you draw up your budget? What metrics did you use to draw up your budget? You don't even know the number of people that are captured in your state. So when you are bringing 37 billion or 37 trillion naira as budget for something, on what premise are you doing that? You don't have data.
Not at all.
So you see, I think we need to fix these things right before we even start talking. We need to put systems in place that ensures that the system in itself is transparent. If you need this information, you go check here, you'd find it. If you need that information, you check here, you'd find it. But once it becomes unclear, the lines are blurred, and it's so hard to be able to determine A from B. It's easy to commit fraud or corruption within such systems, because people will always find creative ways to cover their tracks.
Now, when you talked about budget, I just recalled a particular story I saw this morning right here. It's still on my screen. That the federal government, states and local government, they shared 1.928 trillion naira as revenue for the month of November 2025, and of course was splitted amongst various states as it is. Now you talked about the numbers, and most times all of this revenues that has been shared is for the growth and development of the states and the local government areas. But how many of these people actually takes this money back to the states and the LGAs and develop those areas? Big question, and we need to ensure that our government officials are doing better. But of course, still talking about the senior citizens, whilst we're holding the government accountable, as young people as well, if you have those that are elderly in your home, as much as possible, please show them some love. Please, if you can afford it, also create a system where you can support those in your home to start with, and if you can extend to those within your community, go ahead and do that. I believe that we can all thrive, in love in our society. And of course, that being said, have a parting word, Martha?
That's pretty much it. I mean, they are part of us. They are part of us. You shouldn't be told to care for your elder citizens or your aged citizens and loved ones around you.
Very true. I do remember that you can follow us across all our social media pages across all platforms at Rapid TV, and you can get to rewatch all our episodes on our official Rapid TV YouTube platform, which is at official Rapid TV. And wherever you are in the world, you can always watch our programs live using our website www.arabianradiotv.com. My name is Victor. Okay.
And my name is Martha Alu. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.